Welcome to the latest edition of ARC News. I'm Nate Williams, the director of the Apologetics Resource Center, and let's dive in for our three stories we'll cover today. The first one, and I'm pulling some of this information from the Gospel Coalition, it's titled The FAQs, the Frequently Asked Questions. Supreme Court hears oral arguments in case of free speech and bans on sexual reorientation therapy. One thing to know about this as a background is you need to be aware of the term conversion therapy because in the past, in the field of psychology and counseling, there were these admittedly harmful and hurtful practices in counseling where you would try to dissuade someone or change their behavior by means of shock therapy or making people nauseous or trying to associate certain behaviors and thoughts with painful, I guess, stimuli, painful reactions as a way of dissuading them from participating in those things. And so conversion therapy, at its worst, was damaging, was harmful, but those things, that's not what people do these days when they talk about issues such as homosexuality or trans ideology. And so just be aware, conversion therapy is used a lot as a term, but it becomes a scare tactic because some of the things from the old days, well, that's not what people mean when they talk about counseling homosexuals, counseling people who have unwanted sexual desires. So just have that in your background. So with that, let's move forward. On October 7th, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments in Childs versus Salazar, a First Amendment challenge to Colorado's law that prohibits conversion therapy for minors. In 2019, Colorado passed the Minor Conversion Therapy Law, which makes it professional misconduct for licensed mental health practitioners to engage in therapy with minors with the goal to change an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity, including efforts to change behaviors or gender expressions, or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attraction or feelings towards individuals of the same sex. But here's where the mask slips. Here's where you recognize this has nothing to do with professionalism. It has everything to do with worldview. Because note this next part. So you're not allowed to counsel in order to help people change their sexual attraction, to change maybe their homosexual desires. You're not allowed to do that. But you know what you are allowed to do? This next part. However, the statute does allow counselors to provide acceptance, support, and understanding to help minors undergo gender transition or transgenderism. That gives the game away right there. Because how proponents of this law will put it is, oh, it's unprofessional. Same-sex attraction is normal, healthy, natural. So therefore, Christians engaging in conversion therapy, that's bad and harmful and destructive. But then when it comes to transgender ideology, when it comes to experiencing certain thoughts about yourself, maybe I am the opposite gender, the opposite sex. Maybe I'm in the wrong body. Well, guess what the law does? It allows counselors to provide acceptance, support, and understanding if someone wants to undergo a gender transition. There it is. That's the worldview. And so instead of the focus on trying to regulate professional conduct, which is how things will be phrased, oh, we just want professional standards and this, that, and the other. No, it's a worldview. Under this worldview of secularism and political left, if you experience same-sex attractions, that's normal and healthy. Therefore, Christian conversion therapy, don't like that term, but again, it's trying to scare you. Under Christian therapy, where you're trying to help someone not have those feelings, that's damaging. But if you are feeling various trans thoughts, oh, I'm in the wrong body, I need to change my sex, I need to have surgeries and hormones and all the rest of it, Well, that's healthy and that's allowed. That's okay. You need to support and affirm those feelings. Boom. Mask is off. It's about worldview. And it's looking like the Supreme Court sees it that way as well, thankfully. The Supreme Court must decide whether Colorado's law impermissibly censors speech by banning certain therapeutic conversations, or whether the law is a valid regulation. This is going to be the argument. Is the law a valid regulation of professional conduct that only incidentally, indirectly restricts speech? That's how they're going to phrase it. Oh, we're just regulating professional conduct. No, you're enforcing a worldview. You're enforcing what is normal, what is seen as normal and healthy and good, and you're trying to ban that which you deem from your worldview to be destructive and harmful. And so I think the Supreme Court justices are seeing it. During the oral arguments, several key lines of questioning emerged. Several justices confronted the law's unequal treatment, noting that it prohibits counseling aimed at reducing same sex attraction. So, can't do that, while allowing counseling supporting identity exploration or assisting gender transition. Justice Alito said, "It seems to me your statute dictates opposite results in those two situations based on the viewpoint expressed. Looks like blatant viewpoint discrimination." So there it is right there. It's not professional conduct regulation, which all fields, all academic, medical fields, etc., professional fields need. You have boundaries, you have regulations. That's important. It's not that though. Instead, it is just plain old, I don't like your viewpoint, your religion, your worldview, so I'm going to ban it. Well, I'm going to allow my own. And the contrast there is seen with trans ideology, which is supported and it is allowed. Taking a step back from this topic, all therapy is conversion therapy. Just being honest. All therapy is conversion therapy. And here's what I mean by that. If you come into a therapist and you talk about depression or anxiety, well, guess what you're saying, according to your worldview and the worldview of the counselor? You're saying, I'm experiencing this thing, whatever it is, depression, let's just say, and I recognize it's harmful. It's destructive. It's unhealthy. It's limiting me. I'm not able to flourish as I should. And your counselor will agree with you. Depression and anxiety, those can be very unhealthy. And so your counselor will try to convert you in that they'll give you practices and techniques and breathing exercises and potentially medicine and so on and so forth to get you to stop doing those things, stop thinking those thoughts, stop having those patterns and spirals and all the rest of it. They're trying to convert you to healthier behavior, thoughts, mindsets, stances. It's conversion therapy, but against depression towards something else, against anxiety towards something else. If you are experiencing some sort of uh, relational conflict, and there are just these things happening because of your relationship that's damaging your life. Well, guess what? Your therapist is going to try to convert you in that they're going to try to help you away from those things and those lifestyles and those ways of thinking and so on and so forth to healthier patterns and thoughts. All therapy is conversion therapy. All therapy requires a worldview from which you act, because in your worldview, those things are damaging. You're not going to flourish. And so therefore you're going to be converted as a way of helping you away from those destructive tendencies. And so then what happens if all therapy is conversion therapy? If all therapy is trying to change thoughts and patterns and behaviors, well, then it becomes about worldview. What is healthy and good? What is harmful and bad? That depends on your worldview of what it means to flourish. And for the Christian, it comes back to our religion. So something to keep in mind. Is there anything else I want to speak? But hopefully, this conversion therapy ban, like I said, they use it as a scare tactic. The way the Gospel Coalition phrases it, what term do they use? Um, Childs and many modern Christian counselors apply a more rightly considered change allowing therapy. This voluntary collaborative talk therapy is common for a wide array of behavioral struggles, such as pornography, promiscuity, and addictions. Yet in many jurisdictions, same sex attraction and gender confusion are now the only topics therapists may not help clients reshape or resist. The counselor is required by law to affirm the identity the client brings, even if that's what is causing the client distress. There you have it. So it's not shock therapy or anything like that. It is a voluntary, collaborative talk therapy. And so hopefully this law is struck down, and then all across the nation, these bans, whether strong or a little softer, hopefully they're all struck down as well. Uh, another uh, another topic to be aware of. This is from the Daily Wire. Blatantly unlawful. Red state challenges FDA over mail order abortions. So, for example, I live in the state of Alabama, and just about, unless there's a situation that arises where the health and the life of the mother is at risk, unless the life of the mother is at risk, physical abortions have been pretty much banned in Alabama. However, the loophole is chemical abortions, being able to order abortion pills through the mail and get abortions that way. And it's very dangerous. Okay, it's very dangerous because these women are taking these pills in the privacy of their home. And when certain medical things come up, when certain problems arise, they don't always know what to do. There's no doctor around. And when it comes to bleeding and other issues, you don't know what's going on. Is this okay? Is this what's supposed to be happening? Or is this really harmful and I could die from this? You don't know because you're by yourself in your bathroom or whatever. So, anyways, just very dangerous shipping these abortion pills everywhere. And so there is Louisiana sued the FDA this week for allowing the unfettered mailing of abortion drugs across the country. The suit, filed Monday by Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill, accused the FDA of enabling leftist activists to mail abortion pills into states like Louisiana, where chemical abortions are illegal. Murrill asked the court to strike down the FDA's approval during the Biden administration of mail order abortion pills, so mifepristone. And so typically there are two pills. The way it is said, and I'm not an expert on this, but basically, where is it, the description? So, for example, with mifepristone, it works by starving an unborn child to death by cutting it off from the necessary nutrients provided by its mother. A different drug, so this is, I guess, pill number two or drug number two, a different drug is then taken to induce labor and expel the deceased baby. So again, a lot of things can go wrong, and women have died from taking abortion pills because they're not in a medical facility. They're not around a doctor. So they're taking these pills. These things are happening to their body. They don't know how much bleeding is normal, how much bleeding is too much. They don't know, I guess, necessarily the problem signs. Oh, I need to go to a hospital. Again, this is a very dangerous pill. And so hopefully this is able to be stopped, because even when physical abortions are stopped, this is how women are getting their abortions to kill their living babies. Now, I know there's a technicality there. Some women would say that, what about miscarriages? What about if your baby's already passed away and you need to do certain things in order for you to live? And so you need to remove the baby from your womb. And so the baby's already passed away at this point. Again, I'm not talking about those situations. Miscarriage care is allowed and obviously encouraged in the pro-life stance. And so it's not an abortion as popularly understood. Yes, technically it is. Miscarriage care could be deemed an abortion, but that's not the sense that I mean the word. I mean when you purposely kill a living baby. So miscarriage care is allowed under the pro-life stance. And I think, unfortunately, the mainstream media, in its hysteria and its desire to misrepresent the pro-life position, they use scare tactics like that. Oh, now if my baby passes away in the womb, I can't do what I need to do. And so what happens then when things go bad and now I just have to carry the baby forever or whatever? None of that's true. Miscarriage care is allowed under the pro-life stance. That's not an abortion from the popular understanding of the word. So I do want to clarify that. So, anyways, that's happening in Louisiana. Hopefully, that's taken care of because chemical abortions are the loophole that's used in pro-life states. And then for the last story of the day, why it's time for LGB to divorce T and Q. I've talked about this for years. So the L stands for lesbian, G stands for gay, B stands for bisexual. That's about sexual attraction. If two women are attracted to each other, that's one thing. Two men, same thing. But then along came this other letter. It was the T. T stands for transgenderism, transgender ideology. And one of these letters did not belong. That's the T, because now with the T, that destroys the other letters. Here, I use this example. If I'm a man and I'm attracted to another man, but that other man becomes a woman, so to speak, that other man becomes just identifies as a woman. Did I just become straight? I don't think so. I'm attracted to men. Or flip it. If I'm a woman and I'm attracted to another woman, that's a lesbian, right? And so if that other woman becomes a man, like in terms of at least thinking they're a man, did I just become straight? No, that's not how that works. So the T negates the other letters. It makes them nonsensical because if gender is fluid, if sexuality is fluid, and all the rest of it, those previous labels, they become meaningless. They make no sense. And so, again, the T does not belong. And then what happens if I decide to identify as a fish? If someone was attracted to me and I identify as a fish, does that then mean they're attracted to fish? I'm being, again, ridiculous for the sake of the point. The T does not belong. And so what's happened is the T's kind of taken over the acronym, and people realize that. And so let's see. A rising number of old-fashioned LGBs see the T for transgender and the Q for queer. They don't necessarily have much in common with gays and lesbians. For these ideological reformists, the LGBTQ mashup and community-wide obsession with trans issues is sowing confusion and chaos within politics and popular culture, eroding much of the progress, I'm going to put that in air quotes, sexual minorities have fought to achieve. And so, again, there's just a rumble, a civil war going to be happening among the acronym community, and it's going to get ugly. So, for a while, there was this term called TERF. If you were maybe liberal, leftist, secular, feminist, but you didn't agree with T or you did not think the trans community should be with all the other letters, you were called a TERF. It was like trans exclusive, something like that, radical feminist. And it was a evil. It was a bad thing to be. It meant even though you're politically left, you're just full of hate because you're not accepting of the trans community. But now it seems like that movement is growing, the TERF movement and all the rest of it. So something to be aware of there, that there is some infighting there and all the rest of it. But for Christians, it's simple. God made men and women to be together. Their bodies fit together. Biologically, there's the function and the purpose of having children. And then those children grow up with a mom and a dad, and there's, Lord willing, stability and there's safety, and there is a conducive environment for growing and maturing and learning. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Nice and simple. All these other happenings and all these other twistings of God's design, that's not how God intended the world to be. And so, yes, that's biblical. That is, according to natural law theory, that's natural law, the way God designed the world to function for humans to flourish, but something to be aware of over on the left side of the aisle in culture. All right, y'all. This is Nate Williams, another episode of ARC News, and I welcome pushback. I welcome feedback. So if you disagree with something I've said, if I maybe didn't phrase things correctly, because that's another thing to talk about. We want to make sure that we phrase things well. So when things need to be bold and simple and broad, you say those things in those ways. When there's needs to be nuance, when you need to mention exceptions, you need to say things and mention those nuances. If, sources are not good and these sources are shown to be wrong, well, I shouldn't use those sources when reporting the news, so on and so forth. So if you hear something that you disagree with, let me know. I'm not going to get offended. Tell me your thoughts, tell me your feelings. Um, if I could phrase something better, let me know. All right, y'all. If you would like, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe to this channel or follow this podcast, whatever app or platform you're on. Tell friends about it, tell family about it. Also, if you would like to support ARC monthly, we're looking to expand the ministry, to grow and teach and train and reach more people. Well, that requires your support and your help. So if you could consider supporting the ministry monthly, I would greatly appreciate that. The link will be down in the description. Until next time, y'all, Nate Williams, director of ARC. I'll talk with you later.